Shri Sai Ram, Gita Vahini, by Bhagwan Shri Satya Sai Baba, Chapter 20, Vision of the Lord's Universal Form, Vishwarupa Darshanam. The Gita clearly declares that only the Hridaya Pushpam, or the flower-like heart free from impurities, that grows in the Manasa Sarovam, the pellucid waters of the mind, is worthy to be offered to God. That is the reason why Krishna told Arjuna, "My dear brother-in-law, whatever activity you are engaged in, whatever gift you give, whatever food you take, do it as a loving offering to me. Do everything in the dedicatory spirit as a tribute to God. Then you can certainly attain me. I have no special preference for anyone. I know neither friend nor foe. I am the unaffected witness. I reside with all who serve me and derive joy from that service." This raised some doubts in Arjuna's mind. He asked Krishna, "You say that you do not make any distinction, that you have neither friend nor foe. How then does it happen that some are happy and some are unhappy, some are strong in body and mind, some are weak and sickly, some are poor and some rich? What is the reason behind all this? When you yourself are above any distinctions of such type, why can you not keep all in the same condition? Observing facts as they are, it is difficult to believe that you look upon all without any partiality." Krishna laughed at this doubt, which worried Arjuna. "I give expression only to Satyam, or truth. Believe it or not, Satyam is neither elated nor depressed. It is changeless, and I am the same in all. But all do not have samadrishti, or the same vision or perception of me. You have observed that during the cold months, villagers sit around a fire at night, but only those who sit near the fire get refreshed by the warmth and are not afflicted by the darkness. They are exposed to light. Those squatting far away have also to suffer in the darkness. If people stay afar and complain that they do not receive the warmth and that they have to suffer darkness, can you ascribe it to be the partiality of fire? It is meaningless to argue from this that fire treats different people differently. It is sheer foolishness and merely lack of wisdom. The splendor of divine vision is akin to this. If you seek to earn it, you have to approach it and stay there. Everyone has equal right to do so and to feed the fire so that it might illumine and warm even more. Fire is impartial, but in deriving its benefit and in making it grow into greater and greater capacity, there are differences. I am splendor, I have no partiality at all, and all are equally eligible. Distinctions and differences arise as a result of the faults of the sadhakas. They are not blemishes in me. Did you notice the loving words of Krishna? The shower of His grace without any distinctions and differences. How true are His words? Really, the people of this world are birds of prey. They do not understand the faults in themselves. They seek faults in others. Sheer foolishness. If the Lord has faults, how can the world sustain? The Lord is impartial. His heart embraces all in love. That is the reason why the world is being securely sustained. The doctor may declare that the patient has no fever just to console the sick man, but the thermometer cannot lie God is like a thermometer that checks the temperature like Antaratma or inner faculty. He knows and reacts to the inner feelings, not to the outer appearances. He can never go wrong, nor can he be deceived. The world considers only the outward appearance. It is guided by that alone. Wade in the river, then only can you know the depth of the water. Eat, if you must know the taste. When people pronounce judgments on the depth or the taste without wading or tasting, how can their declarations be taken as true? If the Lord Himself was affected by partiality, how could He award the bliss of Sayujyam or unity in God or becoming one with God? To the cowherd maids of Vrindavan, would he have partaken of fruits partly eaten by Shabari? Could Janaka have become a Brahmagyani? Could Nandanar have achieved the success of getting the grand vision of the Lord? Could Prahlada and Vibhishana have approached the Lord? Could the monkey called Hanuman been accepted as a Ramabantu, the devoted servant of Lord Rama? Would Valmiki have written the great epic Ramayana? Do these indicate any partiality in the compassion of the Lord? Or do they prove that He has no such trait? Ponder deeply and you will come to the right conclusion. These are all examples of the Lord's real nature as prema or unconditional love and His samantatva or equanimity of outlook towards all. Manabhava madbhakto madyaji mam namaskuru. This command of the Lord means just this: keep your mind steadily on me, be devoted sincerely to me, prostrate before me, then you develop an affinity for me and ultimately reach me, declared the Lord. He only desires two things from you: Mano Nirmalam, a pure mind, and Prema Shuddhi, unconditional love. Those who wish to learn particularly about something in this world will be able to do so only with the help of that particular thing alone. For instance, to see darkness, you must have darkness only. To see light, you should have light. To understand wisdom, you have to be wise. Likewise, in order to be aware of Madhva Tattvam, that is one's real nature as Madhva or divine, one should attain Madhva Vatvam, that is divinity. If you are constantly active about human things, how can you realize the glory of divinity? To become divine, you have to dwell in the contemplation of the divine, act divinely, behave divinely. Sthanas, the Trividha sthanas, Nabhi or navel, Hridaya, heart, Dhru, center of the eyebrows, or the Pancha sthanas including Vadana, tongue, and Murdhamu, head, must become one. Sthiti, that's the three stages, waking, Sthitis or the three stages, waking, dreaming, and deep sleep must become one. The bhavams, all the feelings or thoughts like Panchabhavams, Astabhavams, Dasabhavams, Dwadasabhavams, Vimasati bhavams, etc. must become one. Then only can the Tattvam or the fundamental principle be grasped. It is on the basis of this truth that Krishna continued thus: Arjuna, Jnanis, realized ones are superior even to the gods, who are in their turn superior to men. But these Jnanis who are in the supreme position too are unable to grasp the exclusive knowledge of the Parabrahman or the supreme or pure consciousness. How then Can ordinary men like you ever understand it? At this sly dig, Arjuna bent his head in shame. He said, Yes, I agree, Krishna. You are beyond the grasp of anyone. However intelligent he may be, you are of endless manifoldness. I am convinced, I regard, you are Parabrahman, the supreme, pure consciousness. It is my firm conviction that you have created the entire universe and that you are fostering it and presiding over both the evolution and involution of the worlds, that you are the master of Srishti, creation, Sthiti, sustenance, and Laya, dissolution. You too have yourself revealed this to me. I am ever grateful to this. I am ever grateful for this, and I am happy that I was considered worthy. But how are you manifesting yourself in the universe as various manifestations, forms, beings, composed, or your Shakti, that is Vibhuti, or the great powers? And how are you eminent in the universe you have brought into being? I long to hear it from you and make myself worthier to be alive, asked Arjuna. And which among these various forms am I to meditate upon? Tell me, so that I can meditate likewise and save myself, he pleaded. Dear Arjuna, do you think the thing you sought for is a piece of cake? Said Krishna. Perhaps you felt that you can easily understand the answer I've given. Well, since the question has been put, I shall melt a little and give the answer. Listen carefully. I am the Chaitanyam, consciousness in the form of their brilliance in the sun, moon and stars. When the great destruction comes, I am the force of destruction and I am the source of construction too. I am all-pervading. I am all-pervading, right from the infinitesimal to infinity. I am the past, the present, and the future. I am all-encompassing the three regions, the terrestrial world, the celestial world, and the lower world, and the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. There is no form which is not I, no name which is not mine. Blood taken from any part of the body is the same as from any other part. So too, the divine is everywhere the same. Then Arjuna joined both his palms and with uplifted hands he humbly asked Krishna, the whole of creation is your form, is it not? And the Jnanam or knowledge, Aishwaryam wealth, Shakti power, Balam strength, Viryam energy, Tejas splendor that exists in this creation are all the reflections of your essential nature, are they not? Well, will you not give me the sacred chance to fulfill my life's desire, to experience you as all this creation, as Vishwarupam of the form of creation itself? I plead with you, I pray at your feet. Arjuna, I shall certainly satisfy you, but your sense organs of vision cannot see that glorious vision. Therefore, I shall confer on you the Divya Drishti, or the divine extrasensory vision. Now, see, the ever compassionate Lord Krishna said, and aided Arjuna to have the vision of Vishwarupam. While at this point there is one subtle detail which sadhakas or spiritual aspirants or seekers have to note. The Vedas, Shastras and Puranas, besides many scholars and saints and others who have a right to speak about such matters, all describe God as Sarva Vyapi and Sarva Bhuta Antaratma, that is, as present everywhere and as the inner reality in every being. On the basis of this, some people argue, if he is so present everywhere and in everything, why is he not seen by everyone? For all such non-believers, the befitting reply is, how can the physical I, composed of the five elements, see beyond the five? The physical I can perceive only objects within the realm of the five elements. Nothing can illumine an object that does not reflect light, but a flame illumines itself and sheds light all around. Likewise, God is self-luminous, embodiment of knowledge, and is beyond nature. So, He can be seen only by Jnana Drishti, the eye of wisdom, an eye that can be won only by His grace. Hence, Ishvara Upasana, or worship or contemplation on God, is an essential part of sadhana. If that is absent, nothing can be earned, for he who fails in seeing himself can never succeed in seeing others, in seeing anything outside him. Engage yourself in sadhana that will secure the grace of God. Through that grace, the Jnana Netram, the eye of wisdom, will be granted. He is easily reachable by the path of bhakti or devotion. While experiencing the vision of Vishwarupam, God, whose form is the universe itself, Arjuna was shedding tears of joy. O Almighty God, all the gods, Brahma, the Creator, all the sages and saints, all the manifold beings and objects, movable and immovable. Oh, I see every one of these. I see all. Ah, from your petrified face, flames of splendor emerge and spread to the farthest distances. I wish I could know the meaning and purport of this terror-stricken fierce form, Arjuna exclaimed. Did you notice, Arjuna? Have you known by this that I am the creator, sustainer, and annihilator of all activity and of all beings and objects? Have you realized that you cannot save anyone on this battlefield, nor can you kill anyone? Neither you have the power to kill, nor do they have the power to die. You are nimitta matram, or merely an instrument. Living and dying are both directed by my will. I bear the burden of the earth. I create the burden. I relieve it, said Krishna, fondly patting Arjuna on the back and speaking softly to assuage his Krishna fondly patting Arjuna on the back and speaking softly to assuage his ecstatic excitement. This incident is a fine example to illustrate how God is Bhakta Vatsala, the one who is affectionate, caring, and compassionate towards his devotees or worshippers, and Bhakta Pradhan and Bhakta Paradhina, the one who is bound by the sincerity of devotion and bends to console and encourage his devotees. Just imagine how could this Arjuna, who was so hesitating and nervous until he got ocular demonstration like an ordinary mortal, face and conquer mighty heroes and masters of all arts like Bhishma, Drona and Karna, except for God. It is impossible for any individual to overcome such formidable warriors. Krishna wanted Arjuna, who had surrendered to him, to take the credit and glory of conquering such mighty heroes. To bestow glory upon his devotees, God executes superhuman acts through them He pretends to be merely an innocent one, despite the fact that he is the one and only director of the entire melodrama, just by being a witness. This shows his love and affection for his devotees. Arjuna wiped the tears of joy and fear from his eyes. He folded his hands in prayer. O Lord, I had the vision of Vishwarupam, which I had never before seen or heard about or even conceived. I have realized that it is a factual truth. Those terrific flames of splendor are scorching me. My body is sizzling under the impact of that glory. Present yourself before me once again with the sweet smiling form of yours as before. I can no longer sustain this awesome vision. O Father, resume your former form. I cannot continue seeing this, pleaded Arjuna. Krishna melted. His grace made him agree. He said, Arjuna, you have just seen this universal form of mine, a vision which no height of Vedic scholarship or extreme asceticism or deeds of charity or sacrificial rites and rituals can ever hope to win. This can be accomplished and is possible to be accomplished only by the bhakta with one pointed devotion towards me. This is called Ananya Bhakti, devotion which does not admit of the least distraction. Therefore, their hearts are rendered very pure too. Whatever they see only the Lord. Whatever they do as an act of sincere worship to the Lord. They have no other form before their eyes, no other thought in their minds, no other act for their hands to do. At all times and places, they see only my form. They utter only my name. They think only about me. They feel only for me or about me. They are active only for my sake. It is such, O Arjuna, that attains this vision. I too ask for only this, Ananya Bhakti. Arjuna asked with a smile and a little tremor of the lips, Lord, I realize that you are pleased with Ananya Bhakti, undeviating single-pointed devotion, but I have this further doubt. Are you pleased with the worship of you with form or you without form? Do you prefer Sakara Upasana, that is worshipping the form, or Nirakara Upasana, contemplating the formless, which melts you more and contributes to success in getting your blessings, which is easier for the sadhaka and more welcomed by you? Please tell me which of these two is best. Krishna was happy that this question was asked. He said, Arjuna, I do not make any distinction between the two. The two are the same. I am pleased. However, I am worshipped, provided the mind is saturated with me and there is unblemished faith. Arjuna intercepted with the query, Krishna, is mere chitta shuddhi, purity of heart, enough? Do not gender or class as fixed by caste or the stage of life form obstacles to success? Krishna chided Arjuna and replied, Arjuna, I am surprised that you should ask such questions after going through all this experience. Don't you realize that those who have fixed their minds on God, who have reposed in me, the personification of truth, eternal and pure, there will not be an iota of body consciousness, deha bhranti. If, however, They have their Deha Bhranti. It only reveals they have not completely surrendered their minds to God. For those who have no Deha Bhranti, there will not be any discrepancies like gender or caste or the stage of life, isn't it? But the Ashrama Dharmam and the Varna Dharmam, the codes of moral conduct prescribed for the castes and for those in the 4 stages of life, student, householder, recluse and monk, do not hinder in any way the discipline of fixing the mind on God, or of attaining God, or of purifying the mind of evil and worshipping the Lord. The distinctions of gender or caste or status or stage of life affect only those who live in Deha Atma Bhavam, body consciousness, and Lokatma Bhavam, act as if the objective world is absolute. So you should not be bothered about these. At this, Arjuna said, Krishna, the contemplation on the attributeless aspect of God, Nirguna Upasana, is very difficult, is it not, for those with Deha Abhimanam attached to the body and Loka Abhimanam attached to the world. The worship of the God with attributes, Saguna Upasana, which is within the reach of the ordinary man, can this yield Antakarana Shuddhi, purity of the inner instrument of mind? Please enlighten me. Jai Sai Ram.
Saishwaraya vidmahe Satyadevaya dhimahi Tanna sarva prachodayat. Om Saishwaraya vidmahe Satyadevaya dhimahi Tanna sarva prachodayat. Om Saishwaraya vidmahe Satyadevaya dhimahi Tanna sarva prachodayat. Om